Hi, everyone. Welcome to another live webinar hosted in our live stream platform here on YouTube. Thank you all so much for coming. We've got some really exciting stuff that we're going to be chatting about today. Another live webinar hosted in our live stream. Oh, I've just got something going on with my sound. Just going to exit that. Okay, so we'll just give a couple minutes for everybody to trickle in here. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys about video prospecting. Of course, we've got an expert on video prospecting here with us, being somebody in charge of business development at a video prospecting tool, among other things. So we'll definitely dive into what Vidyard does. We'll have Reva introduce herself and kind of what she does with Vidyard. But as you guys are coming in, why don't you let us know where you're tuning in from? We'd love to hear from you. Love to know where you guys all are. Me and the team, well, some of the team are up here in Vancouver, Canada. And Reva, where are you guys?
Yeah, so I'm in Southern Ontario, also in Canada, nice. Right near the US border, kind of close to Buffalo, New York.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Got another Canadian.
Awesome. Love to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. We'll just give a couple more minutes here. Just a reminder to all of you guys tuning in right now to ask any question that comes up at any point in that YouTube chat. We'll be keeping an eye on it the whole time. We will save some specific time at the end for a Q&A, but don't let that stop you from asking any question at any point, because if it's about the topic that we're discussing, we'll make sure to answer it. But if you want to just ask something for later, we'll be sure to get to it at the Q&A portion at the end. And as well, subscribe to this channel if you want to be notified for more of these webinars, for our live streams, any of that kind of stuff. Hit that subscribe button and you will be notified when that happens. Oh, looks like we got another Canuck, another Vancouverite. Very nice. Yeah, so why don't we get into introductions a little bit? Reva, I'll let you take the lead on that.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks, Sarah. So as Sarah mentioned, I am with Vidyard, and I most recently was the BDR manager at Vidyard, managing our outbound prospecting team. But most recently, I returned back to my roots in sales, and I'm now on the commercial sales team again. So I'm really looking forward to chatting a little bit about the test that Sarah did and sharing some thoughts from both a management level, working with our outbound team, as well as a individual contributor level now, just sharing my thoughts on how to use video and where to use video in sales.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited. For those of you that don't know, I actually ran a 30-day experiment mimicking very closely a sequence that a certain team at Vidyard does. That team has a kind of similar targeting to predictable revenue. So it made the most sense to kind of follow their lead there. And I did my best to kind of get rid of as many variables as possible and really just follow that sequence to incorporate video into my cold outbound prospecting, following kind of their best practices for video, following their kind of templates for video, all of that kind of stuff. And can't wait to show you guys the results and what we saw. Yeah, so that's kind of going to be the first piece that we'll tackle. We'll also tackle just some kind of feedback on my results, what happened, where I could improve. Reva, of course, will give her guidance there. We'll also take a look at another big company who is using Vidyard for prospecting and the data that they have around the success that they've seen using video. And then, of course, we'll tackle your questions and basically help you guys set yourselves up for success in using video for prospecting yourselves. So yeah, why don't we get started? We'll start sharing some slides here so that you guys can see what we did, have some kind of visual aid there. We will share the slide deck with you guys, those of you guys who registered. If you want to see the slide deck and you weren't one of the people who registered, feel free to just shoot a comment into the chat or send an email to myself, Sarah, at predictablerevenue.com, and we'll make sure to get you these slides. we did have one question for you guys, kind of around video prospecting just before we get started. Reva?
Yeah, so curious to know, and you can kind of chime in the chat, who here has tried video before? That'd be a great place to start to see, has anyone given it a try? What were your thoughts on it? So we'll give a few moments to get that. And I was just switching screens because I'd rather have it on this side.
Yeah.
So Sarah, let me know if you can see my slides.
I can. Looks great. And for a bit of context, I previously had only used video prospecting once. I had used Vidyard once before, unsuccessfully in a campaign, through only fault of my own. And so that's why I thought it would be a great idea to work with Vidyard to figure out how do we do it from the people that do it best. So my answer to that question would have been yes, and I did it badly. What am I supposed to do now? So yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys if you've given it a go. There are quite a few, we've got some yeses coming in. There are quite a few kind of ways to incorporate video these days that maybe didn't exist. Like we've got platforms like Vidyard, we've got that LinkedIn native video feature. So all of that is things that we're going to kind of tackle best practices using those platforms, and then of course using Vidyard as your kind of main platform for recording those videos and sending those videos via email. So we had Nick uses video, loves it, separates you from the pack. Yoganda Wellness uses video a lot, awesome. Philip, yes, not very well. Well, you're in exactly the same boat as I was in, and we'll help you out. Michael, yes, I use video for prospecting and recruiting candidates. Awesome. So you guys are obviously all interested in using video, if not experienced in using video. So we can't wait to show you what we've done.
Yeah, so let's dive in then. Perfect. So Sarah, do you want to share a bit about the test that you ran and a little bit about the details?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I tried to mimic a certain team from Vidyard's sequence. So the team at Vidyard is the emerging team. They're the most kind of similar to us in terms of who we're targeting. So the use case that I was kind of outlining in my outreach was where we prospect on behalf of our clients. So prospecting for cold outbound, generating new meetings, generating new opportunities. That was kind of the value that I was proposing to the prospects. I had a sample size of 111. I originally built a list of about 150 targets, knowing that maybe some of those emails wouldn't be accurate, but wanting to have enough of a sample size to really get good data on the experiment. So it was 111 videos that ended up going out. Those titles that I targeted were director and above sales and business development titles. And then this down the bottom here from video views down is kind of the results that I got. And we'll kind of go into those in a sec here and how I got there. But of those 111 videos that I sent, 16 of them, there were 16 views. That was a couple of videos were viewed more than once. Some were viewed just a single time. So that doesn't necessarily mean 16 unique videos were viewed, but 16 video views. And my response rate to the campaign as a whole was 3 responses. 2 of those were meetings booked.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think that diving into this a bit in terms of, it was a bit, so you used cold email, or you used video, in cold outbound, and these were the results you got. Typically though, with the measurement that we've seen on your end, we were kind of comparing to like a warm, what you call midbound, which I've actually never heard before. I like that term, but a warm email social cadence. It's a mixture of email and social outreach, and it's to people who might have like raised their hand in some way or shown a bit of interest in predictable revenue. So it's not like an apples to apples comparison, but I think that's okay for our conversation, because the first thought I have is maybe one of your takeaways, Sarah, could be to start using video in your midbound sequences.
Absolutely, yeah.
I use that a lot, quite a bit as an AE. As an AE, when I'm doing my own prospecting, I'm often reaching out to people who have shown interest in the past. Maybe they've gone down an evaluation cycle with us and they weren't ready for one reason or another. It didn't work out. When I'm following up with a video on those prospects, my rate of booking meetings is much higher when I compare it to that of like the BDR team, who's often going cold outbound.
Yeah.
So that could be one like takeaway on how do we enhance your mid-bound sequence with video.
Absolutely.
The other piece I think we will talk about and peel back with Sarah's approach in this test is how can we increase her response rates? Because her response rate was 2.7%. She had 3 responses, but her meetings booked rate was, when you look at how many of those responses converted to meetings, quite high. She converted 2 of her 3 responses into meetings. So if we can increase the response rates, that's going to really like jack up the meeting booked rate, or the number of meetings you can book. So I'm going to go into a couple ideas I had for Sarah. First of all, I watched Sarah's video and I thought it was really well done for a few different reasons. One, and we'll get into this in the best practice, but one, Sarah's video is around 40 seconds, and we always say to shoot for around 60 to 75 seconds max when you've never reached out to someone before, when it's the first time they're speaking with you. Any longer, you might risk losing them. Any shorter, you might not be getting your point across. So that's like a really good sweet spot. You also had a really great structure to your video. You had a nice opener about who you are and why you're reaching out, a few ways that you could help that prospect, and then a close, which was you'd love to book more time with them. A couple areas I would say that could possibly help increase the response rates or the engagement, even getting people to click on your video, would be number 1, the thumbnail, and number 2, the title. So when it comes to thumbnail, we always want to make sure we have a really well-positioned thumbnail in terms of lighting and positioning. So with Sarah's thumbnail here, you can see that she's a little bit behind the play button. And I always have to remind myself, because it's just natural to sit center in your screen, to just try to offset yourself a bit. And if you're using a whiteboard, try to hold it like this. And then when you start to get into the middle, that means you're going to capture a really great thumbnail. And the second would be lighting. So you can see in Sarah's thumbnail, there's a lot of natural light coming from the back. And when you are backlit, it just makes you a little bit darker. And so if you can find a place in your home, or if you're working in the office, a place where you can be front lit, where you're facing a window, that's always super helpful too. I've tried to position a light in front of me that almost acts as a ring light. So whatever you need to do to set up your like workspace at home to give yourself really good lighting. The third piece on the thumbnail is potentially playing around with the GIF thumbnail. So these two, although you can't tell, I always love to make my thumbnails a GIF. So I'll be like waving or like doing this with the sign. It just makes it a little bit more like intriguing. And then the last piece is updating your title. So this is something a lot of our free users of Vidyard don't know they can do, but you can update the title. So you can see here, I always update it to be something personal for that group. So I'll pause here and see if we have any relevant questions, just so I'm not kind of skipping by. I think I saw one question around like, what tool do people use to create videos? So maybe I'll take 5 steps back and explain a little bit about what Vidyard does. But Vidyard is an enterprise video platform for people to use. A big component and a super popular component of our platform is our video creation tool. You can download it at the Chrome extension. It's free forever, so there's no like upgrade or 30-day trial or anything like that. But it's essentially a Chrome extension that allows you to record your webcam like Sarah did here, or you can record your screen and you can share that through platforms you might be using today like SalesLoft or Gmail or Outreach, those types of things. So sales reps are often using video to kind of enhance their prospecting and selling by using a really engaging medium like video in their process. Cool. Anything you want to add here, Sarah?
No, I think these are great. Yeah, great tips. I definitely would love to see how engagement increases with that GIF, having that bit of movement in the email, definitely having the Vidyard recording title instead be, that person's name or company name, or like even a little bite-sized snippet about kind of the problem that you're solving. Definitely, I think those would be things that would up the engagement. Yeah. I think it's great.
I love that. Yeah, I think what you're on track there, especially with like piquing curiosity with the title, is another great way to go. So that's something that we definitely use at Vidyard on the outbound team. So kind of some discussion points. Number one, so there's two kind of components of using video in your outbound strategy. Number one is the pieces that surround the video, and the second piece is how can we improve the video itself. So the pieces around the video, the first like opportunity to get someone to watch your video is a subject line. If they're not opening your emails, they're not even seeing the video. So we really want to maximize open rates. And Sarah did a really great job using subject lines that have been proven. I will share some others at the end of proven subject lines, but essentially you want to make it compelling for the person to open. So letting them know, it's for them specifically. Both of these subject lines at Vidyard right now perform at 50%. So we are always A/B testing at Vidyard and kind of introducing new subject lines to test. But right now, these are our highest performing subject lines, and I would really recommend them as a starting point for you. Some questions that we've kind of covered, but the first one I wanted to know is, in your email, Sarah, were you sending both the thumbnail and the link?
Yes, I was. So the thumbnail above and then the link below.
Okay, awesome. And what were you using to send your video from? Was it Gmail, or was it Outreach or SalesLoft?
Outreach. So, awesome. And that's actually a great integration that Vidyard has. If any of you guys are using Outreach, the Vidyard Chrome extension literally attaches right into your Outreach, and you don't have to go open up the extension to be able to film your videos and then put them in. There's a little Vidyard icon literally where you're typing your email. So it was really, really easy for me to just click that, film the video, and then pop it right into the email template.
That's awesome. I think that a lot of free users, when they don't know we have these integrations, which is I see a lot, they might not be including the thumbnail. And the thumbnail is a key part of showing someone you've made a video, but also making it really friendly, because there's a friendly face at the end of that video. I will say the length you had was great, and the structure that you had was great as well. You created urgency in your video with the theme that I had mentioned, where you have that introduction, you have that reason for why you're reaching out to that person specifically, a couple ways that you can help them based on ways you've helped clients that are similar to them, and then a close or an ask of if they would be interested in talking further. So the pieces within the video, I think, were great. And it's all about how do we get more people clicking on your video and then watching your video and responding. So some tactical takeaways I'll give to Sarah is the lighting and the GIF for a thumbnail, personalizing your title, and trying to use video in your mid-bound sequence, because it seems like that's a really high performing sequence already, and this could kind of bolster those results.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are great takeaways, and maybe we can tackle a couple of the questions that came in just now while we've got a little pause.
Sure.
We had somebody ask why I used the whiteboard and why you had the little cutout with some writing on it for personalization. He says, Paul says, I know you're personalizing it, but does it help? And Reva, what's your experience there?
Yeah, you know what? I personally do 50-50. Sometimes I use the whiteboard, sometimes I don't. Sometimes if I feel like the person might think it's, I don't want to say gimmicky, but maybe I'm speaking to a particular industry and I just have a gut feeling of, you know what, I'm going to not use the whiteboard for this one. I might not. Similarly, if I already have a relationship with that person, I'm not going to use the whiteboard anymore because I've established rapport. Mm-hmm. The reason you're using the whiteboard is to show the person that this video you're about to click on to is personal to you. And I've done some research. I've seen some really creative things that sales reps have done to show that I've done some research. I'm trying to build rapport here. Things like product placement. So if you're reaching out to the one I have in mind, and I think I've got a screenshot of it later on, but the BDR is holding a beer bottle because she was prospecting a brewery. And so it's like product placement or something unique. Like if you have something in common with that person, or I've seen people draw, like, they like mountain biking. So you draw them mountain biking on a whiteboard. Like it's kind of just fun things like that that are going to make someone click play on your video. If you don't have a whiteboard, there are free tools as well. I think the app is called Doodle, and you can download it on an iPhone. And I see a lot of reps use Doodle, and it will have the person's name on it, and they just hold their phone like this. So, I mean,
Smart.
yeah, there's lots of ways to kind of bring personalization to your thumbnail.
Awesome. And then we had another question from Sonar. Will videos be more effective in cold emails or in cold messages sent from LinkedIn? And the kind of specific part of the question there is, does that email subject line act as kind of a barrier to entry, stopping the person necessarily from clicking the email, whereas in LinkedIn, it's like right there in that message?
That's a great question. I think there are a few things to consider there. Number one is, are you connected with that person on LinkedIn? If you have a relationship established, or you have spent time building your relationship with that person, I would say go ahead and try this out. People don't necessarily want to be pitched on LinkedIn right away. We're hearing a lot about that. So tread carefully there. Don't just jump into the pitch. Maybe your video is something more helpful. I've seen BDRs be really successful at, once they connect with someone, sending a personal video. There's no ask. It's just, hey, my name's Sarah. I'm a senior SDR at Predictable Revenue. Thanks so much for adding me to your network. I'm really looking forward to sharing some content with each other. And that could be a really cool way to use video in LinkedIn. I'd say using video in LinkedIn is a huge plus. Hardly anyone's doing it right now. So either using Vidyard in LinkedIn or LinkedIn native video, whatever it is, it will help you stand up because no one's doing it. But you just want to be careful about pitching right away. What you would send in a cold prospecting email is different than what you would send in a connection request, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. And one last quick question here before we move on from Mariana. How do you bypass spam filters when sending video? I know that this is, I think, probably a really common topic of conversation around video, because everyone's kind of concerned with, tanking their open rates with being caught in a spam trap, whether that's like sharing links or sharing videos, or so what has been your experience in sharing, certainly for like a first email? Do you think that it impacts that spam rate?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a question I get on every webinar I do. So here it is. The thing to remember is that when you're sending video through email, it's not a video file through email. It's a simple link, just like any other link that you might have. So in my signature, for instance, I have a link to my email, a link to my calendar, and a link to my LinkedIn, I think. If those are going to get caught, my video is going to get caught. On the whole, the benefit of how many connections I'm able to make with someone outweighs the cons. And I'm going to be sending a video with a link in it regardless, because I'm not taking my signature out or anything like that. The way the video is shared is it's a clickable thumbnail. So someone gets your email, they open it, and they click to view that video through the thumbnail. They're brought to a new page to watch it. It doesn't play in the email or anything like that. So if you're already sending links to like customer stories or links in your signature, this isn't any different than that.
Awesome. Cool. Perfect.
Awesome. I love what Michael just said in the chat. Pitching too fast. We call people who do that assholes. Yeah, exactly. So you don't want to do that. So now I'm going to get into something pretty similar, because I love that Sarah did this test, and we've seen another huge company do this test. HubSpot did this a few years ago, and I wanted to share this with the group because they tested 3 hypotheses that I think are pretty typical questions you ask yourself when you're trying something new as a sales rep. So they tested 3 things through a controlled test, and the first one was, does video take more time? That's what I hear a lot. Like, I don't have time to record all these videos. So they wanted to know, does it hinder overall activities for these sales reps? The second was, will video be more engaging than their other channels like email and phone calls? Are people more likely to respond to an email with video or not really? And the third was, will videos more efficiently create opportunities, which was measured through meetings booked, which is what Sarah measured as well, compared to email or phone calls. So they did this test over 45 days with 5 of their BDRs, and they measured one KPI, which was meeting booked. And what they found was pretty incredible. I can share this link to their blog post on this after if anyone's interested. But for their 3 hypotheses, the first being activity, they found video did not hinder activity. So if you take a look at this little screenshot, the reps that were using video, these 2 reps used the most video, and they also were the leaders in activity levels. So that was pretty incredible to see that it doesn't hinder. It's all about best practices around how to be efficient with video, which we'll get into. And the second was, is video more engaging? So they measured this through click-through rates. And so on the top is the volume of email sent, which is red, versus videos. So you'll see lots of emails sent, not very many videos sent. But the click-through rates are in reverse. So the click-through rates on videos far outweighed the click-through rates on just your typical links and emails. So it was more engaging. And then finally, they found that videos booked meetings 4 times more than phone or email. So even if it might take a bit more time, or you might not be sending as many out volume-wise, when you look at that KPI of, am I booking more meetings? Video does a better job. So I love this study they did because it was super data-driven, and it kind of dispels a lot of questions that people have when getting started with video.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some really, really good kind of concrete data there. The fact that it was done with 5 reps, that's obviously a huge sample size. There would have been a lot of activity done over that 45 days with 5 reps. So it's great to see that data from, a big reputable source. And as far as that hindering activity piece, and Michael has made a comment here that for him, video does take way longer. And I think that's really interesting. And we're going to get into a little bit later. Reva will share with us some ways to kind of be confident and be good at the video piece. But something that I found sped up my ability to do these videos was actually a tip that I got from an AE on the emerging team who helped me build this sequence. And it was to batch the recording of the videos basically just like whenever you had a chance, and not think like, okay, I've got to record like all the videos that are due today at one time. I'm like setting this hour in my calendar to record all the videos or whatever. Cause then I feel like it does get stressful, and you will stumble over your words, and then you're like, oh God, I look stupid. And then you got to delete it and start all over again. So for one thing, for me, it was recording the videos like, oh, hey, I've got half an hour here. Let's like see how many I can get through and then come back to them later. That was one big piece. The other big piece for me was writing myself a script that had the gaps for the kind of custom variables. So the like, say the competitors or the other big companies in the same space that I'd be referring to. So writing out a clear script with custom variables, and then batching my kind of research on the companies. So if at one point in my day, I did a bit of research to figure out like, what was the personalization piece that I was going to mention in my video, jot that note down on the contact object, whether it's in your sales enablement tool like Outreach or Salesforce, wherever you're looking when you're filming these videos. Kind of do the research at one time, have that finished, and then you're ready to batch record a few of those videos. Just clicking through these people, the script is very similar. You're just inputting those custom variables with kind of information that you've already found. Because what I tried to do the last time I did video unsuccessfully about a year ago was probably maybe what you're doing, Michael, where I was doing the research and then filming the video, and then doing the research and then filming the video. And that took me ages. If I was trying to look up what I was going to put in this video, check everything, write a script, record the video, done, send, and start again, it all of a sudden was like a massively time consuming activity. So that might be something that could help you in terms of time. And then the other thing is also that it's like you're a human being, and it's fine if you like stumble or flub or kind of like, as long as you're getting your point across. I think if you're like really robotic or really clearly reading word for word off of a script, it's probably going to be less effective. And so maybe it also means kind of being a little less harsh on yourself in terms of what makes it past your kind of sending to that person.
Yeah, I love that piece, Sarah. I think like with that question of like, should you run with it or does it need to be perfect? Like if you've made a big enough error, like you called them the wrong name or you mentioned the wrong company, yeah, let's start over. But if I've had moments where, you're collecting your thoughts and I've literally said in the video, like, okay, what am I trying to say here? And I think that that's just human, and it makes someone realize that, okay, she's putting thought into this. It's not like just this rote routine, like she's pitching this to everyone type thing. So a bit of error can kind of make you vulnerable, which is a good thing in sales. So we're going to get into some pros and cons now of using video in prospecting and how you can leverage the pros and work on the cons to like make this work for you as a new channel to kind of break into. So with pros, we've alluded to this a lot in some of the questions, but personal and human is a huge pro of video. Getting your personality across through text-based email is impossible. And there's so many like subtexts in emails and it can come off the wrong way. This can be super helpful to show you've done your research. It can be helpful to have a tough conversation. It can be helpful to like revisit a ghosted prospect, for instance, and put some personal touch to it. Because sometimes sending those emails of like, are you under a rock? Like that rubs people the wrong way sometimes too. And so this can be a nice human way to do that. You get to leverage your personality and body language. If you're a super creative individual, you get to leverage that creativity in a way that maybe you don't get to in email. You can use different visuals. So like I said, product placement, using a whiteboard. I've seen people like use their dogs. If you see someone's like a huge dog lover and you have a dog, like why not bring your dog into the video? It can be so fun. So these are some of the like new things that video can allow you to do as a sales rep. It also offers that it allows you to demonstrate effort and commitment that you're putting on. Like if you're making a personal video for a single person, the thing that I find so interesting is that, okay, if you're on this webinar right now, you're probably a sales rep who's really trying to like sharpen your tools and be the best you can be. So I'm sure when you're prospecting, you are doing your research and you are writing a really great email, but people's tendency is just to see a text-based email and click delete, even if you've done that good research. So video allows you to like pattern interrupt and stand out. It gives you a few more seconds for someone to like say, what's this about? And they listen and they say, oh, Sarah's actually making some really good points in this video. Even if Sarah was going to do that in her text-based email anyways, it's a pattern interrupt. So these are some of the pros of video prospecting for sure.
I'd love to jump in here on the pros before we move to the cons, because the focus kind of our conversation here is around using video in prospecting. So kind of reaching out to those cold prospects, but it's also a great way to engage at any point in the sales cycle. And if you are like a full cycle sales rep or an account executive closer kind of role, it can be really valuable there too. I actually interviewed Nick Cegelski on the Predictable Revenue podcast. It's just a couple of episodes back, and we'll share the link to it here in the YouTube chat. But he leverages video using Vidyard throughout the rest of the cycle. So basically to engage like multiple decision makers, if there's a big buying committee, like in an enterprise, a complex enterprise deal, he uses it to provide context on collateral that he shares. Like if they say, hey, I need proof that you guys can do X, Y, Z, instead of just sending a PDF of a case study and expecting that person to sift through to find the information, he'll do a screen share and be like, here, actually, like this page 2 is where you're going to find what you're looking for. And he sheds some light on what he's sharing. And a whole bunch of other really great use cases throughout the rest of that cycle. So while it's obviously a great tool for cold prospecting, it's a brilliant tool to use throughout your entire sales cycle.
Yes, I will add nothing because that is perfect. It definitely is. Okay, so some cons that we hear, and I mean, I was the same before I started using video too, is that it's new. So it can kind of feel daunting. Like, what do you say in it? What's your messaging? What's your style? Should I use a template or a script? These kind of roadblocks, if it's a little bit tough, can make a rep kind of put that on pause and go back to what they're doing currently, because they have a job to do, right? And it can be more time intensive to actually create a video that you feel good about sending out. Another big one, especially when getting started, is the confidence in delivery on camera. It's just like when you've started making a cold call and you feel very uncomfortable and awkward and really in your head, but it's something that, you need to push through, but that can kind of cause people to just say, you know what, I'm not doing this. And then the question of, will prospects even watch your video, and the risk of whether the net impact is positive or not, which is what we're talking about today. So before I kind of move forward, anything on the cons, Sarah? Anything that kind of you vibed with?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the idea of the kind of like style template, what you're supposed to say, is a big one, because if it is something you're unfamiliar with, it's like a new channel. Like there's a lot of content out there on what you're supposed to do in a cold call, what you're supposed to do to craft a great email, LinkedIn message, but there's not a lot of information out there, like, because not everybody is doing video prospecting. There aren't like 25 thought leaders all sharing their best practices when it comes to video. So definitely the idea of like having to script it all from scratch and not knowing those best practices is huge. And definitely was something that made me hesitant to try it. And that's exactly why I wanted to do this webinar for you guys, and like, follow the best practices by somebody like Vidyard, who of course have done this a million times. Because it is hard. It's hard to kind of make it up. So hopefully you guys can take those examples that we've shared and implement them, and that'll alleviate that one particular stress. And then in terms of, time, it being time intensive to create, I think it's something that gets quicker and quicker the more that you do it. Certainly even for me, within this 111 video example, which is not that many. If you think about how many cold calls or emails you've probably sent in your career as a salesperson, it's tiny. I would say like once you've done 5 videos, you like get a little bit in the rhythm and you're like, cool, okay, I understand how to do it. And it really kind of compounds and it gets quicker and quicker. So those 2 pieces were certainly ones that I think were top of mind for me before going into this experiment. But having done the experiment, and again, not a huge one, I'm confident in those things. So hopefully you guys will be too by the end.
That's great. Yeah. So we want to talk about like, how do you make the most of these pros and address these cons so that you can make video work for you? So the first thing we'll talk about is like when to use video in an outbound cadence. So what Sarah had done, which is what our emerging sales team does, is used video as a second step. So they send a text-based email first, and then they send a video. This is something I would definitely recommend testing out, especially because HubSpot's recently come out with a huge study on COVID and how COVID has been impacting key rates that sales reps are going to care about. The number one is that email volume is through the roof right now. Everyone is sending email, but open rates are decreasing. And so that's a tough thing to navigate. So the emerging team has tweaked their outreach, and they've said, you know what, if open rates are down and volume is up, we're going to first see who opens the video. And then when we get that through SalesLoft, we're going to say, okay, I'm sending a video to everyone who's opened the video. So that's something you might want to test out. As a account executive, when I do my own prospecting, I'm sending my video first. My thought is I want to put my best foot forward, take that chance. It's not taking me that long to make that video. So that's what I do, but definitely test those 2 out. So using it at the beginning of your outreach, using it in the middle of your outreach is a good one too. You can, with the Vidyard paid tool, you can start to send some pre-created content. So maybe you've got like a killer customer testimonial and you want to send that off. You can program that in your SalesLoft or outreach cadence or sequence and send that off. And then at the end of the cadence, we had at the end of our cadence where it was kind of that leaving things here email, we had a video that we recorded as a team and we had incorporated that. But you could get creative and like record a video, even saying, you know what, it's too bad we weren't able to connect this time, whatever it might be that you're like ending email is, make it video and send it over and over, one to many, not one to one, but one to many. So some ideas on like what makes a great prospecting video. Number one is this thumbnail. And these are just some examples of really awesome thumbnails. So you'll see here, we've got some like product placement that's relevant to them. This girl has the beer bottle because she was prospecting someone that worked at a brewery. We have someone who is playing the violin. If you are creative in any way, I've seen prospecting videos where someone would write the prospect a song and play her guitar and sing them a song. Like, I'm not creative like that, but if you are, please do it. Using the screen share option. So if you found someone on LinkedIn and you see something so compelling on their LinkedIn, like they're responsible for a key project or something like that, record you going through their LinkedIn and talking about what prompted you to reach out to them. So lighting, this one's great lighting. I would say for this individual to like move a little bit over so that they're not blocked by the play button. But these are just some examples of what great thumbnails can look like. And so again, you're really showing your authentic self. You're being personal. You always want to smile. You want to leverage your body language. Maybe you stand up while you're recording if that makes you present better. Using visuals and just knowing that, standing out, a thumbnail's worth 1,000 words. They say like a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's definitely more impactful, engaging. Visual content is more memorable. So definitely use it to your advantage. And then I'll pause here. I don't know if you have anything to add, Sarah, or if there have been any additional questions, but I just don't want to monologue.
For sure. It doesn't look like, we had one from Michael that was on, does including a GIF thumbnail negatively impact the inboxing rates? And my understanding, Reva, is that whether it's a GIF or it's just the static thumbnail, it's a link either way that you're embedding in that email. So it doesn't matter what that thumbnail looks like. The impact will be the same. And as you mentioned, if you've got a link in your inbox, if you share like case studies, whatever, that will have the same impact. So there's no real kind of specific negative impact to having a GIF or a static thumbnail from a Vidyard video in your email.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Sarah. And the great thing about being able to send the thumbnail as well as the link is that if someone on the other end, the receiving end, does have their images stripped out, which can happen if they have those security levels, at least they still get the thumbnail. So it's not like, hey, I sent you this video and then there's nothing there. That would be kind of a weird experience. At least there's the link. Mm-hmm. And they probably know that their security levels strip out images, and that's why they're not seeing it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I did have one thing to add on the idea of sending that first touch email when we were talking about kind of where to place, where to place your video in your outbound cadence. Another thing that I heard from Nick Cegelski, who of course leverages video a lot, is that for him, it can actually be quicker to send a video rather than an email as a first touch, because when you're writing an email, you want it to be like really perfect. You want it to stand out. You want it to like mention all the problems that you're going to solve, but then you're also don't want it to be too long. And, you've got all these things to kind of factor in, all this conflicting information about what makes a great email. And you're kind of going to get tied up in that. Because sending this video allows you to be more human, you can just say the words. You don't have to worry about typos or grammatical errors. You don't have to worry about like the formatting of your email and whether it's like within that right type of format that gets the highest response rate at this moment versus tomorrow. There's a lot of things that you've got to think about when it comes to text in an email, but like a phone call, video gets rid of all of those layers. So it can actually be a lot quicker to just send your thoughts via video than it might be to actually write out that first email.
I love that idea. That's so different than what we typically hear of like video is hard or video takes a long time. That is so true. And that's like the definite pro of getting your personality across and being more human. And definitely when you've got that rhythm of this is how I structure my videos, it can be so much faster to just record a video. For sure. I love that. So now getting into how to get a prospect to actually watch your video. And this is what Sarah can probably dive into afterwards on how to increase those response rates. Number one, get creative with your subject or your intro. So these are some tested and proven subject lines if you want to write them down or take a screenshot. But anything where you're mentioning video, you definitely want to mention video because video is intriguing. I love the idea of being a little bit off. So people really like round numbers, but seeing 54 seconds that could change your life, or I made you this 54-second video, that's really intriguing. It's like, why is it 54 seconds? So I love that idea, and we see it work very well. You can also address the potential video concerns in your message. So sometimes when you send a video, someone might be like, oh, I have a meeting in 4 minutes. Do I have time to click on this video? No. But if you say, I made you a 67-second video, they can say, you know what, I've got time for that. So address that concern. And also try to address like you don't want to send a video alone. You need some meat around it with email text. So addressing a concern you know they have by the research you've done can be helpful, and trying to create some curiosity to make them click play. So I made you this 54-second video, and to clearly show how I can help with that, and you won't believe how it ends, ... That's pretty like, okay, what's going on there? So any way that you can create that curiosity cliffhanger where you make someone want to click is a good way to get more engagement. And then we've talked ad nauseum of the thumbnail and using your email text around it to really increase engagement. And then becoming efficient with video. So I would say Sarah has a great piece of advice on, like block the activities you do. So do a bit of research for a few different people, write that all down, and then go sit down and do your videos versus doing research, making the video, sending the video, and then getting prepped to do another one. Just like you make cold calling blocks, or you make time for email follow-ups if you're a sales rep, make some time for just focusing on video. Creating that structure that Sarah talked about too, doing that intro, why you're reaching out, a few ways that you think that you can help, and then your call to action. That's a rinse and repeat process where now, like Sarah said, she was like plugging in the challenge and the way that she could help and the key customers she was going to reference. You just plug and play really. So those are kind of 2 tips to get really efficient with video. Sarah, I don't know if there were any others on your end or if those were the big ones.
I think those were definitely the big ones. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. No, I think that was it. I mean, just having like a note open on my computer that was that script rather than relying on like looking at outreach and then, switching all around. I just had that one note that was always in the middle of my screen that had that script. And then I would just double check who I was sending the video to, check that research that I'd done to kind of plug that into that script. I think you covered all that I learned there.
Cool. And so then becoming confident and efficient with video, number one, like, to build your confidence is always preparation, right? You feel better when you're prepared. So plan out your message before you hit record. We have speaker notes in Vidyard, so where you can put a few key ideas that you want to talk about, like maybe you want to talk about a project, or you want to name drop someone or mention some competitors, whatever it is, just like enter those in above the video. And then as you're talking, you can look and you can remember that there were things you wanted to mention. Your setup can help you feel more confident too. If you know you're well lit, you like the background you have. If you don't like the background you have, there's another free tool called Snapcam, and you can create nice backgrounds. I've seen a lot of BDRs at Vidyard actually create a background that is like the prospect's office, for instance, which can be really fun and personal. It shows you put a lot of time into it. So be conscious of your lighting and audio. Have that good setup before you get started. Smile before you hit record. No one wants a thumbnail where you look nervous or unsure. Smile, look friendly, and then figure out that go-to template, how your structure is going to look, and block off those recording hours. There's also something to be said about not personalizing every video. I would say for your like tier A gold star accounts, definitely personalized to each and every person. But there can be moments where you make a video for an entire team. So maybe you sell to the finance team or you sell to IT. Can you make a video where you're not mentioning someone's name, but you're just talking about that company's challenges, and you can send it out to 10 or 20 people? And then one-to-many videos that you can use across different companies. So do you have an upcoming webinar and you want to invite everyone to it? Can you make a single video that's still really personal and friendly, but send it out to like 200 people across different accounts? So thinking about like when you're going to personalize one-to-one and one-to-many is a good idea too. And this is just the last slide. These are some resources as you're getting started with video and prospecting. We have like Prospecting 101. You can download our free tool, and we have a lot of really great content on our blog about, you know, video best practices as you're getting started.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great. So I think we have Q&A now. Yeah. I knew I had one last slide. So yeah, I think, Sarah, should I stop presenting at this point? We can just take care of Q&A?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Let me have a quick scroll back and see if there's anything that we didn't tackle throughout the presentation thus far. Yeah, and you guys, if you have any other questions, whether it's about, you know, how to write a video, how to write the sequence, or how to script a video rather, and how to write a sequence, where to put it, any trepidation you have, anything that you found that doesn't work, like if you guys have tried video and you've had no success, let us know. Let us know what you did, what you think went wrong, or we can help with what we think went wrong. So yeah, we had Michael who said he uses video prospecting for recruiting candidates, which is awesome. And somebody else mentioned that they used it as a thank you when they were applying for jobs and were able to land their current job. So it's got a ton of applications outside of just video prospecting, as we mentioned. Yeah. That was Michael who shared that, or Nick Hamilton who used it to land his current job. Yeah, we're going to share the link to the HubSpot data there that we shared a little bit earlier in the chat.
So Sarah, I just put that in the Zoom. If you want to put it in, it doesn't look like I can log into the chat right now, but I want to make sure everyone gets it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've got it. Awesome. So that'll go there. Yeah, any questions, guys, or any comments or thoughts on how maybe you're gonna implement video prospecting now that you've learned a little bit about kind of best practices and where to go from here?
Yeah, I will say, like, another tip actually that's just come to mind is if you notice someone hasn't watched your video in that first email that you sent them, try to think of how you could repurpose it. So maybe use it on LinkedIn or send them another email with a different subject line. So that could be another way to kind of repurpose a video, especially if you took like a bit longer to make it and you really want to get it in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I did in this test sequence. That second step, as Reva mentioned, was where I sent that video for the first time via email. But later on, I believe it was step seven or eight, or either day 7 or 8, a little bit later in the sequence anyway, kind of around the time where you would be changing up the subject line. Say you've got 4 email touches throughout an entire sequence. It's going to be the third one. And changed up that subject line, changed up the email copy to kind of talk about a different problem that we might be able to solve for this prospect, but then shared that same video. So you're not having to record a whole new video, and you're, as you mentioned, repurposing and potentially like re-engaging that same prospect. Looks like Michael said lots of movement in the GIF thumbnail garners much higher engagement. Interesting. So you found success there, seeing it makes sense, because also then people can tell, I think, that it's like a live recorded video. It's like another glimpse into that human element of it, rather than the idea that maybe you only personalize like a still of you holding their name and company up, and then it's just a pre-recorded video or whatever. Natalie.
Robert Gravely mentioned the call follow-up, which I'm just gonna like point out is a great idea. Mentioning in your voicemail, for instance, because a lot of people aren't picking up the phone, but if you can leave a voicemail and say, hey, I sent you an email 3 days ago, has a really personal video for you. I'd love to like get your thoughts on the ideas I shared. Just like anything you can do to point them back to that video.
Yeah, awesome idea. Matt says, this was extremely helpful for best practices of when to use videos. Excited to try and utilize this in a one-to-many use for high engagement prospects and sequences that haven't yet converted. Yeah, that's actually really similar, Matt, to the mid-bound idea that we were talking about at the beginning. So what mid-bound means to predictable revenue is not cold outbound, not they've never heard of you before, but they haven't come in through inbound. So those contacts that you might have from marketing who say are on your mailing list, they have attended some webinars like this one, they have clicked on some links, but they've never gone so far as to actually go fill out that form on your website to chat to somebody. Those are great people to target in general. And as Reva mentioned, those are some of our highest converting sequences. So adding video to those sequences can only improve those engagement rates with those people. And I think those are the type of people, because they are familiar already with your company in some way, they will appreciate so much that personalization to them, I think. And that's just a hunch. Let me know. If I reach out to you for watching this webinar, would you like me to send you a video? So I'm going to prospect you.
Yeah, I think that's such a perfect point that like if you have a little bit of brand awareness in someone, you're probably going to get higher engagement.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Well, anything else? We'll wait for a couple more minutes here in case there are any kind of last minute questions. But Reva, if people want to learn more about Vidyard, of course, you have those links there on how to get started with some video prospecting, but where can they get in touch with you? What can they follow? Where should they go?
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend if you're interested in trying it, going to that vidyard.com/free. It's the free Chrome extension. If you have questions or like you want to connect with me, I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. You can find me there. Send me a message if you're getting started. I love hearing when people have quick wins and they share that with me on LinkedIn. So feel free. I'd be happy to connect.
Yeah, same here. I'd love to connect with you guys and I'd love to hear from some of you guys if you've never tried it before and then you go ahead and try to implement video into your prospecting. You can comment on this live stream forever, or you can reach out to us, each of us, and let us know if you've tried it, if it worked, what's working, what's not. And we'd be really, really happy to hear that. One last thought from Robert was that the other way around as well. So in terms of not necessarily just leaving a voicemail to refer somebody to watch the video, but the other way around, like a video about why you called that person is another great way of going.
Love it. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I loved this conversation, Sarah. It was so nice to kind of debrief on your test and share some best practices with everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Reva. It was really nice for us to dive into this kind of untapped channel that exists. We're reaching kind of maximum saturation on a lot of our other channels and seeing some kind of dwindling response rates or open rates or kind of conversion rates. So to kind of open up the idea of this whole other channel that is currently underused, I think is massively valuable. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing how to do it effectively.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
Awesome. And thank you so much to you guys all for watching, for engaging in the chat. It's always wonderful to be able to have these conversations with you guys live and answer your questions. As always, hit that subscribe button if you would like to be notified on more great content that we'll be putting out. And yeah, thank you guys so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.